So hi everybody and welcome back. This is a C++ tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video 94 and in this video we are talking about functions and arrows again because it's very important and I can show you this one in our exercise which we finished. I hope you did a very good exercise, better than me, because mine was not actually very good, but it worked, and that's also very good. So we start first with talking about functions, and then I will switch to arrows, because here I will show you that we can cause here a critical error, and I said we can make errors, but critical errors, this is the danger ones. So, but let's start first with functions. So I used here in my exercise different functions, the normal functions, void, yes, we know this, then a void with parameters, and function calls I did here, and here that was all a forward declaration. That is all what we know so far. That's very fine. But then I said our cin, std cin, is not a good way, right? So the point was here, if you write one string here for cin or numbers, and when you use spaces, then it causes problem, because the cin takes all in till it reaches a space, blank space or something like that, and that's very bad. And this cin is actually saving all the other inputs as well, but it uses automatically for an input for all other places, and that caused a problem. And the solution for that was, I said, okay, you can solve this in different ways. Of course, you can make here an error catch try block and something like that, but the best solution, and I showed you not this one, but now I'm talking about this one, it's the get line. And this Std Get Line is a standard library, so you can use this from the standard library, and it is this function call get line, and you see they write all the functions in lower letters. And then interesting is here in parentheses they call here this stdcin, and then they use just a normal variable where you want save this input. So this one is your input, this is the place where you want save it. And now we understand this function, but this one is still a little bit strange. And why is this strange? Because I showed you that you can call functions in parameters here, but when we see this one here, actually this is not even a parameter, this is here an argument. So the problem here is this one is not even a real function call, right? But this is a function. That's very strange. And the problem here is we need a little bit learn a little bit more to understand this stdcin. Let me show you just what I mean with that. When we go here, go to definition. That was bad. Let's make peak definition, and that's better. And you see it is defined in C++ with some macros. Then we have here our word extern, and then again a macro. And the important thing is actually this one here, iStream. And when I hover over it, and then you can see in the tooltip, but it's very small, there is a long line. And when we try to solve this line, there are some things we have not talked about, but most of them we know. For example, the using keyword we know. Okay, they're using std iostream s and then assigning, and then the problem comes, what is this std basic iStream, and then this square brackets. That we have not talked about, and that's why we will not solve this one. But in the future you will understand this one as well. So, but important is you can see you can use a function, and in the parentheses you can call again a function. This was even two calls actually, one call here and then one call here. So then we have, let's see what functions we have here more. We have here a function with a return type, and this return type was interesting because that was my created own return type, right? That's very interesting too. So you can create your own return type. In our case, it's this, also in my case was this enum class which I created. That's my return type and I can use it. Later when we learn classes, then we can create here classes and structs as a return type. That will be the normal case. And then interesting is you can see here again, that's a normal parameter actually. Yes. And here we have our definition. Let's see if there is something interesting now. Let's see here. What I have here interesting? No, it's also not interesting. Here, just normal calls function without return type. Few parameters with int. I want to show you one more thing, I think. And yeah, I think it's time to go to the problematic places. And the problematic place is, that's the best place, absolute here. Here is a function with a bool, and here we have again a function call, 2 parameters with int, and now we are talking about this return. Actually about this return. And I talked about this already, right? I said when we talked about function, a function with a return type needs a return keyword, and if you don't have a keyword, that's can cause problems. But actually when we watch it, it works even without a return type. And that was also this int main, perhaps, I'm not sure. I said it is treated here special in this case because it's the start point, but perhaps I was wrong. I don't know. Return, let's write return 0 just in case. But the point is, here, this one is still treated as special, perhaps. I'm not sure. I have to ask a compiler, people who knows about compiler. And the point is here, this return type can be omitted even with functions who has a return type. But now comes the big problem. If you omit this return type, then it's called that this function will have an undefined behavior because it is expected a return type, right? So, and what I mean with that is when we talk about errors and you hear something like undefined behavior, which is caused by this, for example, if you have not a return type, this is the place where you as a programmer must be very, very, very and double very and 1000 times very careful. And why is that so? Because I talked also about errors in your coding. I said you make as much as errors you want, there is no problem as long as you can solve them, right? That was that what I said. As make here 1000 errors, and if you can solve them instantly, most time you just, let's say, let me show you this. Here I make here an error. Let's make here an error. So, and you see now I have many, many errors. Okay, these are very simple errors, but still enough errors to cause problems, right? And here an error as well. So, and then I said, when you compile this one, this kind of errors, there are many. And when we watch this now here on the bottom, you can see, let me show you this one again. You can see, okay, these are very simple errors. They are pointing it really exactly out. Sometimes they are not pointing this one also out, but sometimes they are chaining, right? What I mean with chaining is it starts here with this one, then it's go down to this one, or let me see if I can find a chaining error. Let's make one more error. We are doing errors here and we try to chain this errors. Let's see if I can cause here a chaining error, and let's compile this one. The important thing is okay, it's not really chaining right now. Chaining means in real things like this kind of errors will cause other errors, and you have to scroll down to find the actual error, right? So let's see. When I go here, okay, it says here a semicolon is expected. Yes, I can see it. This was not chaining. I solved this. And then I go to the next error. It says here, okay, this are so simple errors, and you can see easy. But now, after I solve this one, here is something chaining, undefined, undefined, undefined. Okay, they are still the same. That's why it's very easy actually to solve them still. And then we have here, it was a little chain actually, but not a big chain. And here it's a little bit also not too difficult, because after the next line it says we need again a semicolon, but it shows here, but actually the error is one line above. Okay, and still the errors are still here. Let's compile if these are really all the errors. And you'll see it's still a lot of chaining things here. Let's see, I have to solve this one here, and yeah. Now let's see if I have still an error, and it works. And this was the thing what I told you, there is no problem. Make errors as much as you want. There is no problem as long as you can fix them instantly, or even in, or the other kind of error is, let me show you this one as well. Let's say this code here is very bad commented. My code was very bad commented, for example, but this is also not considered to be a real error. Why not? Because you can sit down and work and rework this one a little bit and comment them a little bit more descriptive, so that another programmer can understand it, or you can understand it after you made other projects. So, and you sit back, or you can rework here some code. This kind of things are errors, but not really considered to be errors. But let's go back to our bool return type. And now this return, if you, let's say I say here else, and I comment this one out, right? You see here is no error. Let me start and show you. You see this one is not an error. So the if statement can go here, but it can also go here. And here is no return type, and that will be not considered to be an error. But behind the scene, this one, the function here will say, this is an undefined behavior. Let's write this here. Hint, this is very important, undefined behavior. And why is this danger? Undefined behavior means, like it says, it is not defined. Defined things are what you expect. For example, if you call this function, then you expect the next thing is coming, and when you declare these variables and use it on the other place, then you exactly know what comes next. And this one means you don't know what comes next. And now let's talk about again errors. Under here it is not defined as an error, but this undefined behavior can cause one of this called critical errors in the future. And why it is not showing now an error? Because right now at this point it is not an error. We don't know, but behind the scene, let's say more the technical term, the compiler is here, has not a defined state, let's call it this way. So, and I don't know how the compiler works as well, because I have not studied compiler and so, but undefined behavior are one of these places which can cause for programmers, even for professionals, big problems, because this kind of errors they can cause are called these critical errors. This critical errors is the point what you have to avoid. This error is the place what you can't do. And why? Critical errors are these errors which can cause in real life that people die, or that the bank lost much money because billions of money, or billions of account losses, And yeah, this kind is the real error which you should avoid as a programmer, because that can cause for you a real big problem too in your future. Because as a programmer, that starts with that it's causing an error where you, let's say, worked on a project, let's say 7 months, and then because of this undefined behavior behind the scene, after you work 7 months of project, there will be a chaining of undefined behavior behind the scenes, which you can't see right now, can cause that your 3 months of your project was for nothing, because it's caused so much problems that you have to rewrite all the code again. So, and this is one of these places where it starts. There are many other places. We will go there too with pointers, and there are much more places. But this one, when you hear undefined behavior, and the interesting thing is it shows no an error, right? It's not an error, and that's the biggest danger. Yeah, for a programmer, it shows now not error. You are happy. You go, yeah, it works all fine, and my program is perfect, no error, absolute perfect. But yeah, I made you the one example there. There are two kind of programmers, right? One programmer has 1,000 errors, but he can solve this error instantly, and there's the one programmer who made the perfect code, but too bad he had one undefined behavior, and this caused him so a big problem in the future. Yeah, that's really the point which we have to focus as a programmer. So let's focus how we can avoid this. First of all, when you see returns things, yes, the best way is to write a return. So, and in my case, actually, when we are critical, I caused an undefined behavior here in int main. So I said you can avoid this, but actually this was causing undefined behavior, right? So that's the problem. I showed you a way which is one of the dangerous things what can happen in the program. Thanks so far it happens nothing, but we have to use now this return 0, because like I said, this can cause undefined behaviors, and that is danger. That is super danger. So I think that's yeah, let's see this. I think that's enough talk about this danger. And one more thing, perhaps, how we can still avoid this. I think there is the only way to avoid this is really that you as a programmer must be aware where this kind of behaviors can occur. All time when you have a return keyword, this is one indicator. Be aware a function with a return value needs a return yes, a return statement. And we have here at this point actually one more error. Can you see it? Actually, not really. It's covered. I think it's covered. Sorry for that. Yeah, that will work. We can let it so. But let's see one more. That's so important. We have to talk one more thing. And let me show you why this is also a problem for professionals. I said, normally you expect a professional has so much experience, he will find this kind of error instantly. That's not true. Even an absolute professional will have hard time to find an undefined behavior. And the reason for that is very simple. A professional will work or use, okay, if the professional is very good and has much experience, perhaps he will find it very fast compared to some normals, but like me. But in general, even professionals will have problems to find it. And the reason for that is a professional is also using this debug, right? But the problem is this debug is debugging your code, which is here. So this debug is actually not debugging the code what the compiler really is doing, right? What I mean with that is a professional or a normal programmer can check this code here, but this undefined behavior is actually not causing problems here in your code directly. It is causing behind the scene in the compiler error, chaining error. And this one we have not directly accessed. The only way you have access is if you have knowledge about compiler, and of course if you have knowledge about errors as well, if you are professional, or you know tools who have access to this knowledge, right? And that's why this kind of errors causing professionals big problems too. And then and then they suck too, and that's why they say who write this code is not very and that's the problem. They are not very happy, and that's why I'm pointing this so much out, because yes, later professionals will have a hard time to solve this one, and they will probably find the error, but they will not solve the error in the way that it is like a short fix. Most time, if they find a error like that, it will be in its ends like that they have to rewrite a whole bunch of code again. Most time this is the case, and yes, that's the problem. And be aware of that, and we start to be aware as a programmer. One of this place is bool. Not bool, actually not this bool, careful, not only bool, all return types. This return value is very important for a function. So I think I talked too much about errors now, but yeah, that's too important, because that can break in future your project, and that's the real problem. Because the normal errors, this red cribbles, you can be happy about them because they are not errors, you solve them. You can read them, you can watch them online and solve them instantly, like I said. And with that said, I think I stop here, and I hope you start to see the difference about a little bit errors, which is considered to be normal and fast solvable, and yes, this kind of errors, this kind of critical errors, which is really the real errors which we have, and the biggest problem is we can't see them. That's the biggest problem of this critical errors. So with that said, if you have any questions or complaints, write it in the comments, and bye for now.